Hey guys, it's Flyboy, and today we're going to be talking about the DC character known as Peacemaker, who is kind of an anti-hero. Now, I love Peacemaker's character. I think he's a very interesting and cool character, but he's so dark, and his mental state is just very unstable. Not Joker unstable, but he's pretty unstable. So, Christopher Smith was the son of Wolfgang and an American author. Now, his dad, who ran an industrial company, he ended up being revealed as a concentration camp Nazi. So his dad couldn't deal with the fallout of this and killed himself on Christopher's 15th birthday in front of him. So then they moved to America, changed their last names. He goes to high school, and he's kind of a troubled youth, but he's very smart. But he ends up joining the military after high school, and he goes to Vietnam, where he ends up massacring a whole village. He's been court-martialed, but he's given the option to join this new program called Project Peacemaker, which he agrees to join, which is kind of how he became Peacemaker. After he joined, he ended up leaving and starting his own war on terrorism. He even had his own little secret hideout, almost like a Peacemaker cave, kind of like how Batman has a Bat cave. But then he would take his war on terrorism and the cartel, and he would do this for a very long time. So after years of fighting terror in his own war, he would then appear in Vigilante 36. Now, Vigilante is a very cool character. I'll go over him in another video. But anyway, in this story, these guys, they hijacked this plane, and Adrian Chase, who's Vigilante, he's on this plane. His wife told him not to intervene, and, he has to agree because he doesn't want to put her in danger. And we then have this conversation between Negative Woman and this general who's like, look, we need to get Peacemaker back because he is so mentally unstable, and we tried taking care of him. So supposedly he joined them, but they couldn't control him, and now they're trying to, capture him. So Peacemaker, Christopher Smith, he's at the airport, and he decides to suit up as Peacemaker and stop this hijacking. Well, Vigilante sees this from across the fence and decides to hop over and try to intervene because he thinks this guy is like a villain. Only villains wear this type of clothes besides me. But Peacemaker, he busts through the floor, shoots one of the terrorists. Then he shoots the Vigilante who tries to intervene. Now, this isn't Adrian Chase. This is the second version of Vigilante. But Adrian Chase, he ends up picking up the mask, and he announces himself back as being Vigilante after he had retired. In number 37 of Vigilante, we continue where our last story left off. So in this story, it begins with him being chased by cops, and after getting towards a certain alleyway, it's blocked by the Negative Woman who tells him, look, I need your help taking down Christopher Smith. So then we flash over to Peacemaker, and he's run across rooftops being chased by a chopper, and all of a sudden he pulls out a gun, and I don't know if it's a flare gun. It looks like a flare gun, but I doubt it is. He shoots the chopper, and it just explodes, killing everyone in it. At the end of the story, Peacemaker shows up, and he comes into conflict with Vigilante, Negative Woman, and this guy named Harry Stein, who's a friend of Vigilante, who will later become part of Checkmate. In number 38, Vigilante and Peacemaker, they kind of set aside their differences for a second to go after the terrorist who's behind this plane. And so they team up, and we have this really cool scene where Peacemaker says, thanks, and the Vigilante's like, for what? He's like, for the soul. So Peacemaker's helmet, he is so incredibly insane that he believes every person that he kills, their soul is embedded into his helmet, pretty much after he kills them. But anyway, they end up finding the terrorist, and they both argue over who gets to kill him. And it gets really, tense. And Vigilante ends up getting the kill, which pisses off Peacemaker. So they get into this fight, and it goes on for a good while. But see, Peacemaker, he has military training, and Vigilante, I'm not really sure what type of training he has. I think he used to be a cop, but anyway, during the fight, Vigilante is actually unmasked by Peacemaker on live television after some reporters show up. And they would have kept fighting probably. They probably would have fought to the death if they had the chance, if the cops hadn't shown up and started shooting at them. So then Peacemaker wouldn't reappear until Vigilante 41, which was kind of a small role. It was just him in his Peacemaker cave, if you want to call it, talking about how he wants to get revenge on Vigilante for getting his kill, and also get revenge on Negative Woman. So then 42, which was I think, Storm on the Capitol or something like that. That's what it was called. But you just have Peacemaker show up out of nowhere in Washington, D.C. and start firing on Harry Stein and Negative Woman. and just causing total chaos. And then in Vigilante 43, it's finally the time we see Vigilante go against Peacemaker. So Peacemaker's finally in Washington, and Peacemaker has finally got to Harry Stein and them. And Harry Stein, he gets on his knees like, please don't hurt us. But in reality, he ends up charging at Peacemaker. And Vigilante's on his way there as well. So when he gets there, Peacemaker sets off something in his helmet, which allows him to release a sonic, I guess, like, sonic noise that hurts ears. So Vigilante's able to knock him out, and he's taken into custody. Peacemaker's story would then continue into the Suicide Squad story known as the Janus Directive. And in this story, you had Amanda Waller come to the leader of Checkmate and it's like, look, there is this conspiracy called the Janus Directive, and it pretty much means that there are a lot of different agencies the government uses to deal with events in DC. And she's saying, look, one of them, either Project Adam or the Forces of July, they are going to turn on us. And Checkmate, like, they agree with her. They're like, okay, we'll take care of one of them, you take care of the other one. So she tells Bronze Tiger, all this to go get the team ready. And Checkmate talks about getting Project Peacemaker back. So Bronze Tiger gives a briefing on the mission. He says, we're going to the Carlisle house, and we're stealing this Medusa mask, which is what Psycho Pirate wears. So the squad, they get there, and as soon as they get there, they realize it was all a trap. Somebody had leaked to the other group that they were coming. So this huge fight breaks out between the different members of their teams. And luckily, in the end, the squad, they come out on top and they win. But while this was going on, Peacemaker and Knight, they go to this other facility where this guy named Professor Mingle is, and they just blow it to smithereens. Peacemaker destroys it all. And that's how this story ended. Continuing where we left off, in Checkmate number 3, the story revolved around Checkmate and, pretty much the next part of the Janus Directive, but Checkmate, they're talking like, why do we have Peacemaker? He's crazy, and they're like, we need all the help we can get. And also, Amanda Waller, I think she's gone off the deep end, we need to go get her. So he sends the Knights to Belle Reve to capture Amanda Waller. However, if you're going to break into Belle Reve, you got to expect reinforcements because Bronze Tiger and Captain Boomerang are there. And when the Knights show up, they decide to defend Amanda Waller and protect her. And they end up achieving this. And while all this is going on, Major Force decides to attack the Checkmate headquarters for no apparent reason. And Peacemaker, he senses something's wrong, but the Dr. DeBlow, the head of the Project Peacemaker, tells him, like, no, there's nothing wrong, you don't need to worry about it. He's like, I don't care. I love peace so much, I'm willing to kill for it. So he goes and goes to fight Major Force. In Suicide Squad number 28, which was the next part of the Janus Directive, we get that fight between him and Major Force. And Major Force is just causing all this destruction and chaos. And Peacemaker, he flies in to take him down. Now, Peacemaker in comics, sometimes he'll use a jetpack. I don't know if he'll use this in the movie, but if he does, it'd be kind of cool, but I don't exactly know. But while they're fighting, the Suicide Squad end up showing up to try to help out. And you have the girl who is the girl from Apocalypse, who is Lashina. She attacks Major Force, but it ends up being Peacemaker who gets like the final shot on him. He ends up shooting him while he's fighting that girl. And of course, the story ends with another organization getting involved, the whole Janus Directive, and that organization is Cobra. Checkmate 17, we continue the Janus Directive storyline. So, in this story, Major Force has gotten away. And Peacemaker, he is on a bloodlust. He is in his helicopter, he's looking around. He's hacked Checkmate, and he's got a location of where they're holding him. So he goes to this warehouse, drops down with the jetpack, where he's met with the other Knights from Checkmate. And then all of a sudden they're surrounded by ninjas. So they have to fight their way out of there. However, it ends up being Peacemaker who gets everyone out by them grabbing hold of him while he's on his jetpack. And then they fly off as his helicopter drops like a bomb on the building, blowing everything in there to smithereens. And they get back to the dock and they're like, this guy's crazy, but at least he gets the job done. Then Suicide Squad 29, we then continue the Janus Directive. And this story is just total war and chaos. So Peacemaker is flying a chopper, and they're all the different army forces, Project Atom, Forces of July, they're all attacking, like, Belle Reve. So it's just all-out chaos. Also, Major Force is there destroying stuff, and Peacemaker is tempted to shoot him, but instead goes with the mission. And Lashina, she shoots the helicopter, but Peacemaker jumps out the helicopter with his jetpack, and then he comes crashing through another helicopter's window, attacking the pilot, and it's just so cool. We then just have more total chaos, and all of a sudden, the Medusa mask says, "Everyone, you've been fooled. The real person behind all this is Cobra." And Amanda Waller, as she talks to all the different groups, is like, "Look, I have a plan." So in the next part of Janus Directive, Part 9 and Checkmate, you have everyone starting to team up and go after the main villain. And Cobra, they have this space station, like in the middle of space. They have like all these different hostages. And we don't really know what they're planning. We just know that it's probably nothing good. And so Amanda Waller, she gets her team together, puts them in the briefing room, and briefs them on the mission. Peacemaker follows a thing of jets until he gets tired of following them and decides to jump out on his own. They then all arrive on the space station, the Knights from Checkmate, the Suicide Squad, and they fight the different agents of Cobra. And it's like I said, it's total war. Just people are getting shot left and right. Peacemaker's fighting people. The Knights are fighting people. And in Suicide Squad number 30, we finally continue the Janus Directive, and we kind of get the finale. So Cobra is deciding to do the final stand, which is like this cannon that's going to destroy stuff on Earth. And so they pretty much start preparing the cannon. And the Suicide Squad, right now, they're kind of racing to get to that cannon before it does any damage. So Manhunter, who's another character I'll cover sometime in the future, he goes at Cobra and they get in this fight. And Manhunter ends up winning. Peacemaker and Lashina, they team up. Lashina offers to make Peacemaker a gun someday. And they get to the cannon, and Nightshade and all the other Suicide Squad members, they continue fighting Cobra. And once they finally clear everyone out, they decide to leave, and they tell Captain Adam, go do your thing, and he destroys the ship. After the Janus Directive, Peacemaker would continue to appear with Checkmate. And I'm going to go over these couple issues, 19 through 32, of all these different, or just kind of go over it real quick. So, pretty much, Peacemaker, he first appears in Checkmate, and he's like going after these guys who are like in this barn. Well, apparently they have illegal Russian weapons. So he takes them out quickly, and to interrogate one of the guys, he grabs him, turns on a jetpack, flies up in the air. The guy doesn't tell him anything, so he drops him. He's then led to another place, which is Burrick or something like that, he said. And he beats up those guys quickly. And it's a pretty good fight. He disarms a couple, shoots a couple. He then steals a truck there. He then wired the truck to blow and shoved it into a warehouse to another place that he was led to by this gang. And he then goes in the base and just starts firing up on a bunch of the soldiers. Yeah, that's what Peacemaker does. But he finally returns home, and he's at the Pax Institute, which is like his father's company. And we also learn that, or what we've already known, I forgot to mention, is he hallucinates with his father. The reason he's in this meeting is because one of his workers has come to him like, look, one of our scientists, yeah, he's been murdered. They found his body in London. So Peacemaker goes after a lead in Italy to this guy, and he interrogates him to get information, which leads him to another place. But while he's on his way there, he has a literal mental breakdown and shoots the seat where his father is sitting, or the hallucination of his father. He then ends up in this bar area where he grabs one of the guys from behind and pulls him in to interrogate him. The other guys notice him, which leads to a fight and leads to Peacemaker using his helmet to disarm everybody. He then interrogates the dude for information. The dude tells him information, so then he's led to another place where he confronts this one guy at the French villa, and he captures the dude and takes him back to Geneva, Switzerland, which is where his main base is at. He even interrogates him, and the way he interrogates him is he uses like a sonic sound or his sonic helmet. He said, look, this is going to bust your eardrum if you don't tell me what I want to know. He says this guy named Marsden, and Marsden is like Christopher Smith, like an old friend of his who runs a company. And turns out he's planning on trying to kill Christopher Smith. However, Peacemaker planted a bug on him and now knows what's going on. So Peacemaker just starts firing at the windows where this guy's at. He then comes in through the window and just starts shooting everybody. He captures Mazikeen. Instead of actually killing him, surprisingly, he puts him in jail, which is kind of a surprise because Peacemaker usually kills terrorists, not arrests them. But he then leaves Switzerland to go back to America to warn Checkmate of one of their scientists who's about to be killed by the person Mazikeen sent. So he's in the plane and they're flying, and he's warning them. He then gets like this part of the plane where they like shoot him out of. He ejects, and he then lands near the house where the scientist lives. And all of a sudden, this thing called Bishop, which is like a villain of Checkmate, he shows up to kill the scientist. Well, Peacemaker, he comes flying down and starts shooting at him. Knight from Checkmate shows up, and they all get in this fight. And Peacemaker realizes this guy has a weakness, and he takes advantage of that. The house then explodes and goes up in the flame, and Peacemaker saves the family while Knight takes care of the other guy. Later on, Peacemaker is with the doctor, and they get a call to the president's like, we need Peacemaker. And she's like, he's not mentally okay for this. And they're like, we don't care. So Peacemaker, he gets in his helicopter, and he goes take care of Cypher's guys who are taking over Europe at the time. And he just destroys a whole fleet of them, pretty much, while flying in his helicopter. At the same time, he's also kind of starting to get more hallucinations of his father, and they're getting more vivid and more bloody. And it really caused him to have like a mental break. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He felt like he's about to have a heart attack. He jumps out of the plane. And that's pretty much the last we see of him during the Checkmate series. After the events of Checkmate, Peacemaker was still alive, and he went on many other adventures. And his first mission afterwards was taking on the likes of Cobra. And he did this along the sides of some of DC's best assassins, Katana, Deadshot, Deathstroke. And it was just a real cool issue. After this, he became part of a group called the Shadow Fighters, hired by Amanda Waller to take down the villain known as Eclipso. And Eclipso is this guy who originally was Bruce Gordon, who he touched this stone pretty much, and like this other side of him, the evil side, would come out. But it turns out this is actually like God's wrath. And he's a villain of Spectre, but we'll get into him one day. So, Peacemaker, while on a mission, he's flying an airplane, and his weapons are taken out, and just so the mission will succeed, he's to stop a tank from attacking the other people. He crashes into the tank, which sadly kills Peacemaker in the process, but he sacrificed himself so they can succeed in the mission. So he's then seeing Judgment Day afterwards being resurrected. In the series Blue Beetle, we start off with him finding in this like temple, like he fell in this pyramid and he found this information about the Reach. Well, part of the Blue Beetle. He ends up going to Blue Beetle, trying to figure out what's going on. And he tells them, look, like we're to go on like a road trip, and we're going to figure out what exactly, or who can tell us about this, the Scarab. And so, we learn the thing about Daniel Garrett, the first Blue Beetle. But this series was pretty interesting. Over time, Peacemaker became kind of like a mentor towards Jamie Reyes, who's currently the Blue Beetle. So it was kind of like this version of Peacemaker who was a lot nicer. And they would eventually meet the Reach, who turn out to be bad and planning an invasion. And during the invasion, they dropped a bunch of different scarabs to try to make other Blue Beetles. And in the process, Peacemaker was one of those people who got hit with the scarabs. So at the end of that issue, we reveal that there's a scarab in the back of Peacemaker. And you just kind of see it glow on his shirt at the very end of the story. He then became a host for the Yellow Lantern during the events known as the Sinestro War. And when he did this, he ended up becoming this character called the Infiltrator, which is like this mix of Blue Beetle, a Yellow Lantern. And we then learn that he's been trying to change his ways. And Jamie Ray discovers like what, Christopher Smith used to be. And he's like, look, it doesn't matter what your past is. What matters is now, pretty much. And he eventually overcomes the whole Yellow Lantern thing. And they end up beating the Yellow Lantern. And in the process afterwards, Peacemaker grabs part of, I guess you say, the Blue Beetle suit, and he cuts the scarab off his back. He then would fight in the invasion of the second invasion the Reach did on the town of El Paso, which is where Blue Beetle lives. Then after that invasion, he would then team up with the Teen Titans alongside Blue Beetle to take on a group of, I guess, teenagers with superpowers who were causing trouble during a riot. At the end of the series, Peacemaker left Jamie Reyes with a bit of advice. Become your own hero and don't let anyone else influence you. You have the potential to be something good. He would then return to take on Jamie Reyes when the Blue Beetle suit became evil after being influenced by the chip in his mind. And he eventually took down Blue Beetle by destroying the temple, which I guess controlled the mainframe of everything. Most recently, Peacemaker has been seen in the new Suicide Squad series in 2021 after the events of Infinite Frontier. Now, his first mission was to go to Arkham Asylum and escape with Talon to become part of the team. However, this happened during the events known as A-Day, in which a gas was released in Arkham, killing thousands and thousands of patients. And him and Talon, they end up escaping because Superboy ends up getting them. But if Peacemaker says they kind of failed the mission because of Superboy and his stupidity, and in the process, he punches Superboy so hard he knocks him out. Yeah. Most recently, he's taken on Red X in a fight, and he's lost because the new Red X, we don't know who he is, but he's real interesting. And he's fixing to take on Swamp Thing in a hunt because the Suicide Squad believes him to be a danger. I don't know if they want to kill him or if they want to make him part of the team. We don't know yet, but we'll probably find out soon enough. A version of Peacemaker appeared on the Earth known as Earth 4, and in this Earth, it kind of was like Charlatan Comics, like it returned back to its roots. And it was also very Watchmen-like because a lot of the Charlatan Comics heroes, they inspire the Watchmen heroes. Peacemaker was an inspiration for Comedian, and in this story, he actually was one of the people who assassinated the president, President Harley. But another thing was, the thing about the Charlatan Comics is Blue Beetle was the inspiration for Night Owl, Question was the inspiration for Rorschach, and Nightshade was the inspiration for Silk Spectre. But yeah, that was one of his other big roles he had in DC, which was during the Multiversity event on Earth 4. So now let's get into what I think is going to happen to him in Suicide Squad. Before I get into what I think is going to happen to Peacemaker in Suicide Squad, let's go over what we know about this version of the character. So this version of Peacemaker is not the son of a Nazi. Instead, he is the son of a cunning racist who was, I guess, very powerful in the town they lived in. And he hated this and decided to take on this identity of a vigilante known as Peacemaker until he's captured by Argus. So Peacemaker is described as being arrogant, egotistical, and doing anything for peace, even killing in the name of it, which is kind of hypocritical. But most of the team members on the squad don't like him because he's kind of obnoxious and I guess probably bossy too. But so what I think is going to happen to Peacemaker is going to involve Bloodsport, because we see throughout the trailers they have this kind of rivalry between them. Bloodsport does not like Peacemaker, which is kind of obvious from the very first trailer we got. And we skip this scene in the trailer where he's getting ready to shoot something. It looks like he's in this state of like getting ready to be like this Western, almost like this Western standoff. And I feel like this scene right here, this is going to be his death. We're about to see the death of Peacemaker right here in this scene. So no, I don't think he is going to survive this movie, sadly. But I know some of you are thinking, well, then why are they making a Peacemaker show? That is going to be a prequel. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a prequel to this movie because, I mean, I'd be happy if Peacemaker lives, but I don't think he will live. I feel like he's gonna he's either gonna kill someone on the squad or try to kill someone on the squad, and Bloodsport will intervene because it messes with the mission. But Peacemaker maybe believes that it helps towards peace of the world, and that's what he wants. And you gotta remember, Peacemaker will do anything for peace, even kill one of his team members. So just keep that in mind when you're watching the movie, because you never know if Peacemaker's gonna switch up on him, or, you know, he could be working for Amanda Waller for all we know, because she always has some type of secret agenda when it comes to Suicide Squad missions. So yeah, I definitely think Bloodsport is probably gonna be the one to kill Peacemaker, sadly. But yeah, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.